Hey, what's good, everybody? Comment, like, subscribe, share the video. So, with Stranger Things coming to a finale, I've been making videos on it and made even some AI clips, on the whole Will being gay character and all this and that. So, I wanted to discuss that a little bit more because I've been going back and forth online with a couple of people in the comments. And, I've had people say, oh, no, Will has been gay since the beginning, which I didn't really see it that way. I just felt like he was one of those characters that as time went by, they decided we're going to turn him gay, more for representation than because he was gay from the beginning. Um, so I decided to go back and look in the comments and check reasons as to why people believed he was gay from the beginning. So here we go. People say that in season one, Will was gay because his father was very abusive and would call him a queer and all this and that. To me, that's a stretch. There's people who have very horrible, abusive fathers, and just because a father may call you this or that doesn't make it true. So to me, that's kind of a stretch. So to me, that's automatic now. Then there was a scene in season one where a bully named Troy, he was calling him a fairy. Again, we have horrible bullies out there who say a whole bunch of horrible, disgusting things about different people. Doesn't make it true. So being called a fairy at that time doesn't, from a bully, doesn't make it necessarily so. Again, a lot of these things people may use it as like, you see, he was gay because now he's confirmed as gay. Doesn't mean that he was back then. Then we have season two. So in season one also, but he has done it throughout the rest of the seasons as well. He made Mike a drawing. Again, when you have friends, you give them gifts. That doesn't make you gay for giving a same sex friend a gift. I've given gifts to friends, doesn't make me gay. So then season two, they say that Will's very isolated and not interested in girls at all. Did you forget what happened to the kid in season one? He's traumatized. He's very isolated, not to mention with the whole possession, with the mind flare and all this and that. That does not make him gay just because he was super isolated. He was traumatized. It's like the kid is in shock, like he had to go to therapy and all this and that. You're saying that he's gay? Again, that's a stretch. Then they said that he also drew a rainbow ship with 120 something colors in season two. Before, the gay community were using rainbows to represent themselves. Kids just like colorful things. Kids would draw all types of rainbows and a whole bunch of colorful things. Does not make them gay. It just means kids like colors. It's like to me, that's kind of a stretch. All right, so then we get into season three. In season three, this is where they're developing more. They're becoming more teenagers, and so this is where they get that interest in to the opposite sex usually. Um, so in here, I could kind of give it to you. In season three, Mike yelled at him saying, "Hey, it's not my fault you're not interested in girls." And then he also seemed to be very jealous of Mike and Elle's relationship. I didn't see it at the time, but I guess it could kind of, from here on, I guess you could kind of say that he's gay. But, in my defense, um, Mike yelling at him about that and him being jealous of Elle, it's more of I feel like, out of a friendship thing. Not to mention, just because you're automatically interested in girls doesn't make your friend is going to be interested in girls immediately because everybody's develops at different rates. The interest in the opposite sex doesn't happen immediately. Everybody, again, develops at different stages. So he could have just been a late bloomer where he could have been like, oh yeah, like girls now. But again, that was just the way I was thinking about it. Again, does not make him automatically gay, but I can see why you could think of him as gay from here on out. Again, though, he could have been developing differently, and also the whole him being jealous. I just feel like it was more that he was upset that things couldn't go back to normal because he's just used to having all his friends and wanting to just be with Mike and the rest of the guys from the as kids, just having fun as friends. But because Elle came into their lives and everything has changed, it's difficult to go back to that. So, with all these changes, I guess he felt out of place, and so that's why I think that it's still kind of a stretch that people can view him as gay, but I can understand why you could start seeing him as gay there. Then obviously in season 4 he covered his mouth and was all upset after giving Mike a cheering up speech, to get him back with Elle. So obviously right there from that point on, obviously he came out as gay. But you gotta also remember that in season 3, the other thing was that the real life actor was also coming into his own, developing himself. So by that time, I'm sure that he was coming across as like, okay, I think I may be gay. So then, obviously they would introduce that into the character. So, Hollywood does that a lot. So that's why I bring it up, as I don't necessarily think that Will was gay. I just think that as time went by, the writers decided they're going to incorporate that into the character, but doesn't mean that necessarily he was. That's just my opinion. But these other all these other points in the previous seasons don't necessarily mean that he was gay. At least to me, I don't see it that way. But again, let me know in the comments what you guys think on that whole situation. It's just that I always see it that Hollywood always likes to push the narrative, like, oh, we got to make everything so inclusive and representation for everybody. And I get that, but there's ways to go about it. That's why they had such a bad backlash on on episode 7, because that was so forced. At least if you would have seen the ending, the series finale, the way Mike talked about, all the characters' futures, especially when he talked about Will, like he was at a gay bar and all that. The way they did that, if they would have done the coming out like that, it would have worked out much better because it was very subtle. It worked great. But the episode 7, very forced. Again, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Like always, comment, like, subscribe, share the video.